All right, so beginning of the survey lesson, we're going to talk about and provide just a brief overview of what the survey database is. The survey database is actually a separate set of files and a separate proprietary file that exists outside the drawing of a Civil 3D drawing. And with the survey database, what it allows you to do is basically open up any drawing and then create and import data to and from that survey database within that drawing. So I could have one drawing that has just control data in it, and I could have another drawing that has topo data in it, but all that data resides within one survey database. Or I could have separate survey databases in one drawing that the information is being brought into. You do have to keep in mind that you want to have unique point numbers or point ID information, but it does reside outside of the drawing. So I'll show you to you kind of how it's set up. This is what's known as what may be called my survey working folder, which we'll get to here in a little bit. But within that survey working folder, you'll see that there's two other folders. Inside of those folders, there is some additional information and additional files. You can see that there's an XML file and an SDB file, an SDBX file. Those are all proprietary files. So you don't want to mess with those, but I'm just showing you this. When you create a survey database, this is how they get stored and where they get stored. So we'll discuss where to place that survey database or survey working folder. I recommend it should be in your project, but just wanted to give you an idea of what it is and where it's coming from. Okay, so you can see here what I'm on the survey tab of the prospector, and on that tab you can see that both survey databases are listed. Now if I right click on one, you can see that I get the option to open for edit, I get the option to open for read only, and I get the ability to display a change report, so you can kind of get a report of any changes that were made to the survey database. Now one of the things that a lot of my users I find is they'll double left click on a survey database, and what that does is that actually opens the survey database. But you'll notice when it opens that it has a little pencil with a kind of a do not sign in front of it. Basically that means I've opened this for read only, so I haven't opened it for editing. So if you double click on it, you're only going to open it for viewing purposes, not editing. So if I right click on it again, you can see that I can close that survey database. And by doing so, if I right click and select open for edit, now I don't get that pencil and I can actually edit and manipulate this data. So again, we're going to go through this and show you how to import and export information. But within a survey database, you can see that it stores your actual import event. So every time you import a field book or a point file or other data, those are kind of the two main ones that we're going to be working with, is they get listed in these events. And then once inside that event, it actually breaks it down where you can see the network, the figures themselves, as well as any survey points. And you can see when you select that survey point, it shows up down below. In this particular case, we don't have a network, but if we did, that information would be listed here. And you'd be able to come in here and manipulate and edit this. So everything that you're editing within this, the tool space right now, is in the survey database. There's nothing in my drawing currently that I'm able to edit or manipulate. Everything is done through the survey database. So if I right click on survey points and I go to points and I select edit points, it's going to bring up a panorama window that will allow me to come in here and manipulate the elevation or the description or the point number or the northing and easting of those points. Again, without doing it graphically, I'm doing it through a survey database, kind of a bunch of tables and windows managing that survey data. Okay, so that's the survey database itself. Really not much more to it. We're going to get in and actually show you how it all works and combines. How we'll go through the workflow and the operation of using the survey database and some of the other features around it. If I right click on this and open this one, again, that one doesn't have a network, but you can see I can switch between survey database just as by opening one, it closes the other one. Now, ideally, you would have these survey databases, like I said, stored with a project. I wouldn't recommend listing, and every time you create a new project and you import survey data, that you have one survey working folder and all those working folders or all those databases show up here. I like to store my survey database with my project, and I'll get into that here in a few moments. So let's take a look at some of the overall user functionality within survey functionality within the user interface. A couple things is most of your operation is really done from the survey tab. There is one feature on the interface which is import survey data. It's on the home tab and it's under the create ground data. There's the point cloud feature, which we'll get into for points, but the survey data collection link, which we'll talk about in a few moments, as well as the import survey data are the two commands on the home tab that relate to the survey functionality. When you select the import data option here, what you're going to get is a wizard that's going to walk you through creating a survey database, editing a survey database, and then importing the points or importing the data into the drawing. So mainly it's going to come as a point file or a fieldbook file, and it will create line work or display the points in the drawing. There's other ways of doing this, but that's going to be the main way. Now, with 2014, there is a survey tab. On that survey tab, once you get data into the drawing, you have the ability to go up here, and add labels and add tables and renumber tags, look at different survey point properties, look at the turning on and off the tool space. So if I toggle that, you can see the survey tab is removed from my my tool space. So we want to make sure that's on if you're going to manipulate it with the survey information. You then have the ability to go into the figure properties and network properties and do a survey query. So a lot of things that you can do from here, but you really need data to be put into the drawing before we can get to any of this. Now, not everything in here that you're going to see up here on this ribbon is going to be covered in this particular course. We'll cover that in later courses or other smaller courses, based on need or requests or requirements. But so there is a ribbon for survey now in 2014. But like I said, most of the information and most of the tools are going to be done from the survey tab. On the survey tab of tool space, there's a couple of key icons that you want to take note of, and one is the survey user settings. With this survey icon here, or this icon here, this sets up the settings for the survey functionality, and there's kind of three main external files that you need if you want to process survey data to auto-generate the line work when you go out and collect the data out in the field. And that's under the survey user settings. So like I said, most of your functionality is going to be on the survey tab of the tool space. You have some icons up here for controlling the survey user settings, which we'll get to in a moment. Right-clicking on the survey database feature and setting your working folder or creating a new local survey database. Basically by right-clicking on these features, you get different options. All right, so I can open for edit, like I showed you a few moments ago. There are equipment databases, there are figure prefix databases, and there are line code sets. Now those tools or those files that you see there, those databases that I'm listing, are important for when you're importing survey data to generate line work. The line code set is needed to kind of tell the lines when to start and stop, add curves, close, and whatnot. We'll get into that. The figure prefix database tells the figure whether it's a break line or not, or what layer it should go on, and what style it should be, what should be applied to that figure when it's created. And then there's the equipment database, which honestly we don't really use. It is a feature that you can create a database of your equipment. So if you had a Trimble RTK device and that's the way the survey was created, you could set that equipment up so that when it brings it in, it identifies that survey or that event that was brought into our survey database was used using that piece of equipment. Or maybe it was done with a total station, and you could put the serial numbers in and stuff so that it's what piece of equipment. So if there was an error in your survey, you could track it down and say, well, what piece of equipment did we use to collect that data, and therefore look at the piece of equipment, maybe it needs calibration or whatever. So it's just a way to identify it, but to be honest with you, most users pretty much ignore that particular feature, and we will for this particular course. So that's pretty much it on the survey user interface. There's a lot of other features that could be tied into when we're dealing with survey data, such as the transparent tools over here behind me. But for the most part, the ribbon and really the tool space is where the majority of the survey functionality is applied.